I'm live, just letting you know, but I'm not gonna do anything for 5 minutes.
Well, guess what? On the website. It shows this. I must have been looking at the camera. Yep, and there you walk away, and now you come on. Don't get so close to me. I don't want you in case I'm coming down with it. But
Okay,
okay, I'm gonna close my door because if there's a delay, it gets really annoying.
okay, check Facebook too,
Yeah.
and YouTube. Okay, I decided to be an early bird today. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming on board. I'm not going to start for another 2 minutes, but I wanted to make sure all my systems were working. So we just tested that I am live on our website, SCHMETZneedles.com, on our video page. So I'm showing up there. I'm showing up on Facebook, so that's good. And Paul is checking YouTube. So I don't know if we're up on YouTube yet. The link is in place. So, well, as you come on, say hello and tell me what you're sewing. Are you working on some last minute Halloween projects, or maybe you're working on some Christmas or holiday projects? Gail says she can't comment on the website. Very interesting. I think that's true, Gail. I don't think you can comment. You can watch, but I think the only place that you can comment is on Facebook. So we're still trying this new system, and actually, this is the last shot on this particular service. If I can't get YouTube, Facebook, and our homepage video to work properly, I'm not going to use this service anymore. So, okay, so Gail's working on a bridesmaid dresses. Okay, that could be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or maybe even more. I don't know. Teresa is working on holiday projects. Barbara's sewing a sweater for cooler weather. Yes, I'm in the Chicago area, and yeah, it's still 80 degrees here today. So it is officially noon right now, and I want to welcome you all for being here today. My name is Rhonda Pierce, and I do love to sew and quilt. So I've been traveling quite a bit and talking quite a bit to all kinds of people that love to sew, piece, quilt, craft, home deck, etc. Last week, I was in Fredericksburg, Virginia for Original Sewing and Quilt Expo. And I just got back last night from Florida, where I was in Punta Gorda, Florida for Flash Sewing and Quilting 3-day Sew Creative Expo. So I gave 4 classes there. It was really a wonderful venue and so much inspiration. People who love to sew really inspire me too. And if you're in the Nashville area, I'll be in Nashville giving a class at Original Sewing and Quilt Expo on Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and again on Saturday morning. That's in the Nashville, Lebanon, Texas area at the Farm Bureau Expo Center. So I'd love to see you there if you're in the Nashville area. Next week, I go to Cincinnati. So my schedule's a little crazy this month, and then I'll be in Houston for 10 days for International Quilt Market and Festival, and I'm giving a 3-hour hands-on class. So that will be it's sold out already, so I'm very happy. It sold out like within 10 days or less, so I'm excited about that. Okay, well, let's just scoot along. I'm so happy to see you here today, taking a few minutes from your day to join me. Last month, we had that awesome SCHMETZ giveaway, and our winner was Peggy from South Carolina. And when she got all those fantastic goodies, she sent a really sweet note and said, the package arrived when she was in the hospital. So winning that random giveaway was really, it brought a smile to her face. So I'm happy about that. And she's actually sharing a lot of her prize winnings with her daughter, who has now caught the quilting bug. So there you go. Oh, Gail is there and Clovis is there. Hello. Okay. Let's keep on going. So today I'll go over our giveaway prize pretty soon, but to win that, how do you win? You know what? Tell me what you're sewing. It's going to be a random giveaway, so make a comment as to what you've been sewing. I see a lot of people have already commented, so that puts you into the random drawing. Okay. If you received the newsletter, we've started to do something new. We've been doing little blue bag specials, and this is what it looks like. Little organza bag with some needles, some SCHMETZ needles. So this month, the blue bag special was about hem stitch needles. The hem stitch needles. How many of you use hem stitch needles? Frequently, hem stitch needles are used for heirloom sewing, but sometimes you can use it for other types of sewing too. If you like to make table napkins or placemats, oftentimes you'll see the wing needle used for that. In those projects, maybe you like to make christening gowns. The hem stitch is always very popular about that. So what is the hem stitch needle? The generic name for a hem stitch needle is a wing needle. And let me see if I can get this up close enough so that you can see that is a super thick needle. It's actually a needle and it's got wings on it. When SCHMETZ goes to make a needle, they actually have a master die that they use to create the eye. And the excess steel oozes out from that die. And instead of grinding down those little wings, the wings are just refined. So you get a really wide needle that gives you a very unique stitch. So that is called the wing needle. There is also a wing twin needle or double wing needle. So what this is a wing needle with a universal needle, because most machines would not be able to accommodate 2 wing needles through the throat plate. So again, the wing double needle or double hem stitch needles, frequently used for heirloom sewing. Certainly you can find it on some of your finer linens and some of your really delicate um, tops out of loosely woven cottons mostly, and linens too. So the hem stitch and the double hem stitch are our blue bag special of the month. You'll find these right on the homepage of SCHMETZneedles.com. So keep that in mind. Could be a nice little gift for someone, or maybe you want to sample the hem stitch needles and give it a try for yourself. Okay, let's talk about the SCHMETZ newsletter. And we had I want to thank everyone for participating in the SCHMETZ shout out. It ran for about 10 days and ended on September 17th. And the SCHMETZ shout out, if you're not familiar with, people went to our homepage online, SCHMETZneedles.com, and uploaded a picture of a finished sewing project. And then they told a little bit about the project and what needle type and size they use. So we had 2 winners, and I thought Jennifer's project was really interesting because she had embroidered labels, Halloween labels, for like little potion bottles for Halloween. So I thought that was really cool, and that was an OESD design. The other winner was Robin, and she and her husband are hockey fans, and his team uses the orange color, and she likes black, and so she created this really wonderful quilt. So it was a really good picture too. And she uses, let's see, that pattern was Cozy Quilt Designs Hot Flashes. So you can see that over on SCHMETZneedles.com. And you'll soon see it over on SCHMETZ on Facebook too. We'll have pictures of that and of the other participants starting next Wednesday. Okay, now, you know what? What's really odd was 2 weeks ago, we got several inquiries about twin needles. Twin needles, also known as double needles. So, wow, that was easy to put twin needle information right here in the SCHMETZ newsletter. So one of the questions, or the question, had to do with the little color bar on the twin or double needle. In the past, the stretch and jeans needle had a red bar, but or a blue bar, I should say. And during the pandemic, the red became difficult to find. The red colorant, the blue colorant became difficult to find. So going forward now, all of your SCHMETZ twin needles will have a red bar, not a blue bar, but a red bar. So it has, that red still has the same properties as blue, but just a different color change. So just to bring that to your attention. So since we're talking about twin needles, I want to make sure you know how, what all those numbers mean about your twin needles. When you look at your twin needle, let me find a picture real quick, and maybe that will be helpful. Here I've got the SCHMETZ ABC Pocket Guide, and let me just ask you, when I look at my screen, the words are backwards. Are the words backwards for you too? If they are, let me know so I can make that correction. But I want to talk about twin needles right now. So on page 27 of the Little SCHMETZ ABC Pocket Guide, we have some images of twin needles. And on your packaging, you've got needle size. So at the bottom, That first number on this sample here, it's a 1.6/70. So 1.6 is actually the distance between the two needles, the distance between the two needles. That second number is the needle size. So on this sample here, it's a size 70. Now let me see if there is a little link here. I'm afraid to touch anything. I'm not going to touch anything right now because we're connecting everywhere properly. So 1.6/70. The first number is the distance between the two needles. So 1.6 is actually the narrowest distance that you can find on your twin needles. That second number is the needle size. So size 70 on the little sample right here. But twin needles, twin universal needles, go all the way up to an 8.0. 8.0. So that's 8 millimeters between the distance of the two needles. So that's pretty darn wide, pretty darn wide. So for an 8.0, that's a size 100 needle. And actually that's a universal needle. So when you're working with those twin needles, sometimes, especially when you get with a 4.0, a 6.0, or 8.0, you definitely need to stabilize your stitches, your twin stitches, maybe with a stabilizer or another piece of fabric. Otherwise, that twin needle is actually going to just tuck your fabric into the throat plate, so you won't be very happy with your stitches. So information on your twin needles, if you've got the Little SCHMETZ ABC Pocket Guide on page 27, is information on your twin needles. All right. I was really happy to see you ask questions on the Facebook post. So I've printed out the questions so I can answer each one of those. So Denise asked, what's the best needle for sewing vinyl? She loves to make bags, and she's always looking for a great way to make, to do top stitching. So for vinyl, those of you who know me, what needle would you suggest? I always suggest the super nonstick, super universal needle. When you're sewing with vinyl, the vinyl has a tendency to get warm, and it has a tendency to hug your needle. So the super nonstick will resist the vinyl from hugging your needle. So the super nonstick, it comes in 4 sizes 70, 80, 90, and 100. And these super nonstick needles, you will not find these in the big box stores. You will need to go to your local sewing machine dealer. Some of your fabric or quilt shops might have them too. And of course, we have these over at SCHMETZneedles.com, either as single cards or already bundled up. There's a bundle called the Super Nonstick, so you can give that a try. Cheryl was asking about sewing with knits, t-shirts and sweater knits. Is there a special needle type that you suggest? So there are 2 needle types that I always recommend that you have when you're sewing with knits. And the first is a jersey needle. The generic name for a jersey needle is a ballpoint needle. The jersey needle has a medium ballpoint. The other needle that you need when you're sewing with knits is a stretch needle. And guess what? The stretch needle also has a medium ballpoint. But when you compare the stretch to the jersey needle, the stretch needle has a narrower eye and a deeper scarf. So now your fabric, your needle, your thread are going to play just a little bit differently compared to your jersey needle. So if you're sewing with knits, well, how do you know? Do you use a jersey or a stretch? There's a rule of thumb that works 80% of the time. If your knit fabric has lycra, spandex, or elastic, you're going to use the stretch needle. If it's just a regular knit, use the jersey needle. Sometimes stretch and jersey are interchangeable, but not always. So I always suggest you have stretch and jersey on hand. Again, the rule of thumb is if your knit fabric has lycra, spandex, or elastic, use the stretch needle. So I hope that helps you out, Cheryl. Okay, Lindy's asking, how do you know what needle type or size to use for a project? So, for a project, well, let's talk about fabric first, okay? Because that's part of the equation. I mean, when you're sewing, you got to keep in mind your fabric, your thread, your technique, and also, of course, your needle. So one great little reference is right here in the SCHMETZ ABC Pocket Guide. And at the back of this little guide on page 29 is a reference of what needle type and size to use for about 100 different fabrics. So that's a great reference. You can also download this SCHMETZ ABC Pocket Guide into your phone. It's called the resource page. It's a web-based app. So you go to schmetzneedles.com, and under resources at the top of the screen, top right, it says resource. Click that. There'll be a drop-down menu and find SCHMETZ web-based app, and you can download this. Everything about your needles is right there in the ABC Pocket Guide and also in the app, including this little alphabetical reference as to what needle type and size to use. One of the things the app has, and it's also on our website, is are links to different thread companies with their suggestions for needle type and size. So really, it's a dance between the needle, the fabric, and the thread, and you get to decide what needle type and size to use. And sometimes you have to kind of experiment. Now, I do have a personal rule of thumb as to what needle size I use. Generally, when I'm using a 40 weight thread, I generally use a size 80-12 needle. So now if I'm going to be working with a heavier weight thread, well, now I know I need to move up from a size 80-12 needle. I need to use at least a size 90-14 or maybe even a larger needle size. Again, my benchmark for a size 80-12 needle is with a 40 weight thread, and that works about 80% of the time. So now if I'm going to be working with a lighter weight thread or a finer thread, I know I need to move down and use maybe a size 70 or 65 or 60. If it's one of those micro threads, I probably use a size anywhere from 60, 65, or 70. Sometimes you just have to test. But I hope that helps you determine what needle size to use. And yeah, there's a wealth of free information on our website at schmetzneedles.com. Just look for resources. So lots of free information. Susie has a featherweight 221, and she's going to get it cleaned in a few days, and she's also going to learn how to use it. And she's wondering what needles to use. And I want to say, Susie, lucky you for getting a featherweight 221. I'd like to have one of those myself. So with Singer featherweight 221, 222, and a lot of those featherweight machines, you can use a regular home sewing machine needle, a universal needle, a stretch, a microtex, top stitch, etc. So you can use a regular home sewing machine needle. For more information on your featherweight machine, I want to suggest that you go Google the featherweight shop, the featherweight, all one word, shop. Their web address is singer-featherweight.com. featherweight.com, and they specialize in Singer featherweight 221s and 222s, etc. And they've got a wealth of information. They give classes and do all kinds of events. I know that they even have in-person events too. So check out the Featherweight shop online. Okay, Sally is asking, are vinyl and non-stick needles the same? Vinyl and non-stick needles the same? Whoops. So the answer is yes. So super non-stick needles come in single size packs. These are the super non-stick, super universal non-stick needles. When you see these needles, the first thing that you notice is the color. They're kind of a gunmetal color or charcoal gray, and that's the anti-adhesive coating. These needles also have a reinforced blade, so there's less needle deflection when the stitch is created. And the super non-stick, super universal also have an enlarged eye. So there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. But if you want to test a variety of different sizes in the super non-stick, we do have them packaged on a card that says vinyl. And that's what this here looks like. Vinyl. It says vinyl. We have 8 project-driven needle combo packs, and this one here was made specifically for working with vinyl, or anytime you are working with a sticky stabilizer, a fusible, a spray adhesive, like for machine embroidery, machine applique, vinyl, etc. So in here, you've got the super non-stick, super universal in assorted sizes, So you've got sizes 70, 80, 90, and 100. So it's a great way to test a variety of different needle sizes. So these single size packs you will not find at the big box stores. You're going to go to your local sewing machine dealer and at some of your fabric and quilt shops. The multi-size pack labeled vinyl you can find at Joann's. So you can find these at Joann's. So yes, very good question. All right. All right. Patty. Patty is asking, what is the needle size to thread weight to prevent shredding? Yeah. So again, my rule of thumb is when I determine what needle size to use, for a 40 weight thread, I generally use a size 80-12 needle. And even though I say that, I can tell you that a couple years ago, I was working on a quilt project. I was piecing a top, and I started with my Microtex 80-12, and I didn't really like the stitch quality, and I thought that was kind of odd. So I switched from a Microtex 80-12, I went down to a 70-10, and voila, sewed like butter. So even with this general rule of thumb, 40 weight thread, 80-12 needle, sometimes, there's differences in the thread fibers. There's differences in the fabrics and the techniques that we're using. So it's good to have a range of sizes that are available. The other thing I'll just mention about thread breaking and shredding is that's a clue that you need to change your needle. But if you're using a fresh needle and your thread is breaking and shredding right away, then I'm going to recommend that you change to a different needle type, something with a larger eye. Maybe you need to move up a needle size or change to a different needle with a larger eye. So in the little SCHMETZ ABC Pocket Guide, and also in that free web-based app that you can find online and download into your phone, there's a little diagram about the eyes of the needle. So your universal needle, the eye is 40% the width of the blade. But when you look at the embroidery needle, the eye is wider. And when you look at the top stitch in the metallic, the eye is elongated. So what does a larger eye mean to you? A larger eye means there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. So again, if you're having problems with threads that are breaking or shredding, you either need to move up a needle size or change to a different needle type that has a larger eye. Yes, and Patty says check your thread because, thread, unlike steel needles, thread does deteriorate after years. Uh, it could be 10 years, I don't know, but if your thread is really old, yeah, it's going to deteriorate. So check your thread too. Try a fresher spool of thread. Okay. Anita is working on an embroidery design with dense stitches. And so what needle should she use? So Anita, and I think Anita, you were one of our winners. Was that last month or the month before? She won our SCHMETZ giveaway. So yes, the embroidery needle is a great needle choice when you're working with your dense embroidery designs, especially size 7511. Sometimes you kind of have to experiment. So maybe you want to try a different needle type. If it's a finer design, you could try, you could try the super non-stick. That would be a great needle to try too, because that anti-adhesive coating the needle will slide through your denser stitches easier. So try a super non-stick. You could try also a micro tax or a top stitch. I know a lot of people like to embroider with top stitch needles too. Now that's got that elongated eye again, so there's less stress on your thread. So you do have some options when you're working with those dense designs. Try the super non-stick, maybe the size 7010, the smallest size. Certainly the embroidery 7511, you could try a top stitch and a micro text too. Yeah, Carol, yeah, you could use a metallic. What needle for metallic thread? Yeah, for metallic thread, use that top stitch or the metallic needle. And actually, here's a little tidbit for you, a little factoid. The SCHMETZ top stitch and metallic needle are the very same needle, just two different names. So if you're working with metallic thread and you don't have a metallic needle, no problem. Just use that top stitch needle that you have. Both the top stitch and the metallic are the very same needle, and they have that very same elongated eye. So every once in a while I can glance and see some comments, so I try to be cognizant of that. Okay, Donna is asking about serging, vinyl batiks, and a fusible foam stabilizer. And I say, bravo! That is quite the project. What needle should she use? So if you're using your serger, the very first thing you need to know is what needle system do you use? When you open the inside front cover of your serger, what needle system does it say? Does it say ELX 705? Keep that in mind. Is it ELX 705? That is a specific needle size for sergers. ELX 705 has not only one groove on the front of the needle, but it also has a second groove on the back side of your needle. And sometimes our serger need that second groove. Now, I know that on my serger, it says use ELX 705, but my serger friends say, oh, Rhonda, you can use a regular home sewing machine needle too. So I know that I can use a universal, a stretch, a jeans, etc. in my serger. So you could try that super non-stick needle in your serger. I don't know if that will work for you. Be very gentle when you try that. I know that on my serger, I've tried to use the super non-stick, but it didn't work. So I went back to using the ELX 705, and that needle comes in two sizes 75 and 9014. So you're going to have to experiment a little bit with that. So I don't know what brand of surgery you've got, but yeah, you're going to have to first of all find out what needle system is that. ELX 705, use that. If you can use the super nonstick, fantastic, but you might not be able to. So give it a try. Karen is asking, is there a guide for thread weight and needle size? Okay, yeah. So again, my rule of thumb is if my thread weight is 40 weight, I generally use a size 80, 12 needle. So now if I'm going to be working with a finer weight thread, I know I need to go down to a size 70 or something smaller. If it's a heavier weight thread, then I know I need something larger than an 80-12. So I'll go up to a 90-14 or larger. So that's the rule of thumb that I use. Karen's going to be using a 12 weight cotton thread. So what needle should she use? Yeah, I would use a super nonstick needle or an embroidery 90-14. You need that larger eye for the 12 weight thread. That's a little bit heavier. So go into SCHMETZneedles.com underneath resources, and you'll find a colorful block of thread spools, and you click that and there are links to specific consumer thread companies with their thread and with their needle type and size recommendations. So keep that in mind. Charlene is asking the best needle for cork. So yeah, cork. What are you going to do? You're going to go to the SCHMETZ app and look at that alphabetical listing. You will find cork in there. And it's right here in the print version too. So for cork, we recommend that super nonstick. I use the super nonstick when I work with cork, and also a microtex needle can be an option for you too. If you're sewing on leather, you'll use the leather needle. Sometimes you can use a universal needle if it's a faux leather, but you'll probably want to use a regular leather needle. The leather needle has a cutting blade that can go right through that leather. And one of the things you need to keep in mind when you're sewing with leather too is the thickness. So the heavier or the thicker the leather, you're going to need a larger or heavier needle. Okay, Cindy was asking about 12 weight thread. What needle should she use? Yeah, use a size 90-14 if or a 100 or a size 100, depending on what you're doing. If you're quilting, you might be able to use a quilting 90-14, or you might want to try a top stitch 100/16. So you've got a couple different options. You could try that super nonstick needle also, but again, test, because your project is a lot different than anybody else's project. Gail is going to be sewing through paper or paper-like fabric. Paper-like fabric for costumes. So my first thought is because I'm pretty sure, let me look in here. Paper. Yeah, paper is not listed in the ABC Pocket Guide, but it's paper-like. So I'm thinking a microtex needle would be a good needle for a paper-like fabric. You could try that super nonstick needle too, and you're going to have to experiment with the sizes. So Gail, two needles that I suggest, microtex and the super nonstick. Renata is working with 40 weight embroidery thread. What needle should she use? I'd use us embroidery 7511 or the super nonstick size 70-10 or maybe an 80-12. You'll kind of have to test and see how dense your design is and how much stabilizer you've got in your project. Suzanne is asking about the double eye needle. The double eye needle. She's wondering how that works. How many of you know about the double eye needle? It's a universal needle with two eyes, one right on top of each other. So why have a double eye needle? Well, why shouldn't you have some fun with your needles? Here's what the pack looks like. It's 5 double eye needles right here in the needle pack. So it's a universal needle with two eyes, one right on top of each other. The double eye needle is used for embellishing. You get kind of a top stitched look, kind of a shaded or textured look, depending on, you could use 2 different colors of thread. You could use 2 different types of thread. You will need to, okay, so tips on using the double eye needle. First of all, your 2 spools of thread need to unwind in opposite directions. So if one spool of thread unwinds from the top, the other spool needs to unwind from the bottom. Or if you're using horizontal spools, the one spool needs to unwind from the right side and the other from the left side. That way, so when your thread goes through your tension, it plays well and it'll be ready to create the stitch when it gets down to the eyes of the needle. The double eye needle, you'll need to adjust your stitch length too. You'll probably need to lengthen the stitch, and you'll probably want to start with just a very simple straight stitch, and then you can graduate to something that's a little bit more decorative, like a zigzag or maybe a softer stitch. But it's going to take a little practice with that double eye needle. Where are you going to find the double eye needle? Yep, you can. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find. I don't think you can find it at any of the big box stores. I would go to your local sewing machine dealer. If they don't have it hanging on the wall, then ask them to order it for you. And I'm sure that they would want to do that for you. Of course, you can go to SCHMETZneedles.com also. Let's see, and I think, yes. Okay, earlier I mentioned that we've got the October Blue Bag Special. Well, we still have a couple Blue Bag specials from September. And the double eye needle is in that little September blue bag. So you could give that a try. It's size 80-12. You could give that a sample. The blue bag special for September also came with the quick threading needle, a leather needle, and what was the other one? Oh, I think the vinyl needle. So how do you find the September blue bag special? Go to SCHMETZneedles.com. Under bundles, click bundles, and you'll see it pop up. I think the first bundle you'll see will be the October bundle, but if you scroll down and it's about 3 lines down, you'll see the September sewing month bundle. So Suzanne, give that a try. If you join us again next week, wow, let us know how that worked. We'd love to see. Jeannie, what size of needle should I use when I'm using an E2E design? So that's edge to edge design. And she's using her embroidery machines. Well, you're using your embroidery machine? I'd use an embroidery, probably a size 90-14, since it's your embroidery needle. Anita is asking, what's the best needle for quilting on cotton fabric? Oh my, Anita, you've got choices to make. Let me just walk you through a couple choices. The universal needle, certainly a lot of people like to use the universal needle. But I always like to say with SCHMETZ, you have options. So if you're maybe working with a flannel, maybe you want to use a jeans needle because that jeans needle has a reinforced blade to go through your heavier fabric, especially if you're going to be quilting your flannel quilt. If you are, yes, and we are talking about quilting, you could use the top stitch needle. The top stitch needle because it has that elongated eye. I would start with a size 90/14 because you're probably going to be quilting with a heavier thread. You might consider moving up to a larger 100/16, but top stitch would be a nice needle to try too. You could certainly use the quilting needle, which comes in two sizes, 75/11 and the 90/14. So I would use that larger size, 90/14. And microtext certainly is a possibility too. That 90/14, if you're actually quilting, you'll want that larger size 90/14. If you're just piecing, you probably want the size 80/12 or a 70/10. So you've got options. And Clovis is asking about the double hem stitch needle. And yes, I did mention that already, but I'll just quickly review it because that is our blue bag special. The hem stitch needle is also known as a wing needle. It's frequently used in heirloom sewing. The needle actually has these wide wings. So when you're working with a looser weave fabric, you get a very interesting stitch. The thread is going to kind of pull your fibers together so you get kind of a nice little textured stitch. There is also the double hem stitch, which is a hem stitch or wing needle partnered up with the universal needle. And again, you use these needles for embellishing. So we've just covered a lot of needles here today, haven't we? Okay, so download the app. Go to SCHMETZneedles.com. Under resources, it'll tell you to download the app. For Android, you just click the three little dots and it downloads right onto the home page quite easily. With Android, it's a very similar process. On the website, there's directions on how to download if you need the help. I know you use that little box with the arrow going up to download. So, all right. So let me see here. What else do I want to tell you? We are coming up in 45 minutes. So we've got these great prizes. Let me just run through them really quick. You know that I am a huge fan of Shannon Fabrics. So this is their Blissful Bouquet, So to make a strip quilt top. So some lucky person, I love these shades of blues and greens. And what needle do you use with Shannon Fabrics Cuddle Fabric? Stretch 90/14. Also, we have this wonderful batiks collection from Timeless Treasures. So I've got these little pre-cuts. These are tone on tone, so it's a really nice assortment. 42 pieces of 5x5 100% cotton Tonga treats from Timeless Treasures. From my friends over at Yazi, I've got this nice little carry, this little bag with all kinds of sweet compartments. You could use it for cosmetic, but I'd use it actually for sewing supplies. We've got some wonderful Aurifil thread from our friends over at Aurifil. We have from Clover, we've got their hot hemmer with directions on how to use that. From my friend Quiltoni, we've got the Fantasy Mermaids. And you know what? I didn't really realize that mermaids were so popular right now. I need to go back in and Google mermaids because, wow, there's like a whole group that's really into mermaids. Of course, we've got Mary Malari and her half and half apron. And we've got a couple of magazines here. We've got Quick and Easy Quilts. We've got The Love of Quilting. And we've got McCall's Quilting magazines. And last but not least, from my friend Laura Coya, we have So Very Easy. I have her first two books. And next month, when I go to International Quilt Market and Festival, I'll be in Houston, and my SCHMETZ Snippet Live, I'm going to have some special guests. Laura will be there talking about her third book. So her third So Very Easy book. I believe Mary Malari is going to be there with me too. I've got Lisa from Original OESD, and I've got a couple other people who hopefully, fingers crossed, their schedules work out that they can come by and meet up with me, and so you can meet my wonderful sewing friends. All right, let me see. What else do we need here? Okay, and textile talks. How many of you are going to do a textile talk this afternoon? Yeah, that's free. You need to register for it. So you go to SAQA, or if you just Google textile talks, it'll pop right up. And today's talk at 2 p.m. Eastern time is this fiber art experiments. So that looks really interesting. So this is non-traditional. I would love to take that lecture, but it's not going to happen this time. So let's see who our winner is. Paul has given me the winner's name. Oh, wow. What are the chances this would happen? Because last week I was in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and the winner is from Fredericksburg, Virginia, and she's watching from YouTube. So the winner is, before I say the name, you'll need to send an email to info@smetsneedles.com, info@smetsneedles.com. The winner is Veronica Redmond. Veronica Redmond, you're our winner today. And Veronica, let's see. Oh, she's making her very first quilt. She's totally intimidated and she feels like a deer in headlights. Well, you know what? We all start somewhere, right? And one thing I've learned throughout North America, and actually all my global friends too, is wow, we love to create and we love to share. So when you've got questions, just ask your sewing friends because we love to share. We inspire each other. So I want to thank each of you for being here today. I wish I could be with you in person. If you're in Nashville later in the week, take my class, one of my 2 classes, and next week I'll be in Cincinnati at Original Sewing and Quilt Expo. If you're going to be in Houston at the end of the month, I won't have a booth, but I'm going to be there every day. So come on by and say hello and tell me what your favorite SCHMETZ needle type and size is. So, okay, I'm so glad that this feed worked today. I need to find out how to change the image, but I was intimidated to do it. So thanks for coming today, and I'll see you again next month. So long, everybody. So SCHMETZ.